Flames trade rumors are escalating as one writer has revealed while the Flames absolutely need to trade their hottest trade bait commodity this summer. It would be wild, but we could see 2 summers in a row of massive Calgary Flames trades that completely change the outlook of the team. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family, and let's hop straight in and talk about these trade rumors. Yes, the summer is here for the Flames. I know the playoffs are going on for a bunch of other teams right now. 16 teams, as none have been eliminated yet. But for the Flames, the summer talk is in full swing, which means the trade rumor talks are in full swing. Just wait for more offer sheet and free agency videos. I know you guys absolutely love those. But let's get in. So this is an article from Ian Buchanan, and he writes, it's time for Calgary to trade top 4 defensemen. Now, this is in no way breaking news that Rasmus Andersson is on the trade board and that maybe the Flames should trade our beloved Rasmus Andersson. But it's a new article on it, a new spin on it, and it might, for anyone who thinks the Flames shouldn't trade Raz, I know we love him, love what he did, but it might sway you that it's really better to trade Andersson away this offseason. So let's hop in. It's time to make space for our top prospects. One of the key factors for moving away from Andersson is the fact that he is a right-handed defenseman, which has typically been something most teams lack. However, Calgary has a bevy of right-handed defensemen in their prospect pool and on their roster. Starting in the NHL, Calgary already has 3 right-handed defensemen under contract, excluding Andersson. This includes their best defenseman, MacKenzie Weegar, as well as depth defenseman Braden Paul and Damil Miramanov. This means Calgary doesn't have much roster flexibility to make room for some of their talented, young defensive prospects, which of course includes guys like Zane Parekh, Hunter Brustevich, and Henry Muse, who are all RHDs, which is pretty shocking. So already there's a lack of space. Throw Andersson in there, and there's a real lack of space for some of the prospects that come up, which I think most fans will want to see happen next season. There was a little bit of it this year, not as much as most people thought. It began that way when we saw Hansik come in at the beginning of the year, but still, we would like to see, especially on the back end, some of those young guys who played game number 82. Now, the Flames are not looking to lock up Andersson long-term either, so if they're not looking for that, why not trade him away while he's still valuable? With all the incoming talent, it doesn't make a ton of sense for the Flames to lock up Andersson to a long-term contract. Make no mistake, Andersson is a solid top 4 defenseman, and at 28 years of age, he will be getting a 7 or 8 year contract. So true, which he deserves. If there were a possibility to sign Andersson to a shorter contract, the case of re-signing him would be much stronger. That's true. You guys have been loud about that in the comment section, and we've spoken a bit about it on the channel already. However, with Weegar, Calgary's top defenseman, already locked up until the end of 2027-28 season, and the Flames looking to shift towards a younger core, signing Andersson long-term makes less sense. So already, you want to be making room for the young guys, and a long-term contract just doesn't make sense for where the Flames are as a franchise right now. Calgary has other issues they need to address, even more so than stability on the defensive end. Calgary finished as the 3rd lowest scoring team in the NHL this past season. Their inability to score goals was a major reason they failed to make the playoffs. This issue can be addressed both by making room for a player like Zane Parekh, who scored in his NHL debut and is coming off a 107-point OHL season. Yes, Andersson brings a little bit of offense. You would expect a little bit more from a guy like Parekh. Additionally, Calgary could look to add some offensive players via an Andersson trade. With Calgary's right side having the potential to become a position of strength, trading away a player of Andersson could be a big benefit for the future, and I could not agree more. My number one thing in a trade with Rasmus Andersson, personally for me, would be a really good young center, either a prospect or an already has played a few NHL games, or even an established young NHL center. That would be my number one thing over a first-round pick, but I wouldn't complain about any of that. Now, the return for Andersson could be strong. As we've mentioned, Andersson is a proven top 4 defenseman. He would provide a boost to any NHL roster he joined. This means that he would have many suitors looking to add his talents. Unlike most trade candidates, Andersson could be a fit for many teams. He is young enough at 28 years old that a rebuilding team could look at him as a potential veteran to lock up long-term and provide leadership on the back end. Kind of like the Hanifin trade from last year. He also has a very manageable $4.55 million contract, which means contending teams near the NHL salary cap could add him to their roster without too much pain or any retention for us. This means that there is a massive pool of teams that could be interested in Rasmus Andersson, which is great news. I think most teams, especially in their window of contention, would love to have Andersson, even just as a third pairing guy, could totally slot in and be fantastic for them. There have been some similar deals recently that could provide insight into what return Andersson could provide the Flames. Last offseason, the Sens traded defenseman Jakob Chychrun to Washington in exchange for Nick Jensen and a 2026 third-round pick. Maybe something like that. Chychrun was younger than Andersson but had a similar contract of $4.6 million and this same term. At the 2024 trade deadline, Calgary traded 27-year-old defenseman Noah Hanifin to Vegas. Calgary received a first-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft, defenseman Daniil Miramanov, and a conditional third-round pick in the 2025 draft from Vegas. At that time, Hanifin was a similar age and had a similar $4.95 million AAV. So overall, you're looking at either, an established player with a late pick, or you could get a super early pick with maybe a late pick. Again, Andersson, since it's the summer, he might be one of the top dogs out there. He could go for quite a bit, which is obviously what we would like to see. Now, Buchanan writes that it's time for Calgary to trade defensemen with prospects coming and an impactful. Essentially it's just the same thing he said at the top. But with prospects coming and an impactful return likely, it's time for Calgary to trade Rasmus Andersson. He's been a great player for the Flames and one fans have enjoyed cheering for. Totally true. However, management should now use him to help strengthen their organization and become a true contender in the near future. There's the concluding paragraph of this article here in summation, if you will. And it is true. It makes more sense to trade Andersson right now. That being said, I don't think too many people would fret if Andersson does remain on the roster heading into next season and beyond. But again, we will just have to wait and see. But keep your eye out for loads of Rasmus Andersson trade rumors. This isn't the first video, and this will not even be close to the last video or article or podcast or news segment, whatever you want to have from the media about Rasmus Andersson potentially being shipped out of YYC. Now let's get into yikes to yay. And I know what you're thinking, Mark, what the heck does that mean? Did you remember to take your meds this morning? And what I have to say to that is absolutely I did not remember to. But the yikes part, let's start with the yikes. So Coachella Valley wins 2-0 and sweeps the Calgary Wranglers in their best-of-3 playoff series. The Wranglers season has come to an end. This is from a couple nights ago that, that first round of the AHL playoffs is only a best-of-3, and the Wranglers lost both, getting shut out in that second game, which was just terrible. For some reason, Coachella Valley just has our number. I know our Wranglers squad wasn't, as stacked as it kind of was last year with guys like Dustin Wolf, Coronato, even Jacob Peltier in the lineup. But, the Wranglers just weren't able to do it, which is a yikes. It just didn't look good to have. We were so good through the first couple months of the season, and it absolutely went tits up, to be quite frank with you, that obviously they've been eliminated now, and it was just a terrible season the way it ended, which kind of sucks. But there are silver linings, which is what this channel is all about. So from yikes to the yay, what's the yay part of this? Well, it means that Flames top prospect Samuel Honzek will fight for the Team Slovakia spot at the World Championships, he confirmed. So now that the Wranglers are out, Sammy Honzek, remember him, when's the last time we spoke about him other than a little bit earlier in this video, he will be representing Team Slovakia at the Worlds, which is super, super cool. Super excited to see him. Obviously we got to see him a little tiny bit at the start of the season, which was a little disappointing, but it'll be good to see him play some high-intensity hockey over at the Worlds. And just as a little Worlds tracker, Ryan Pike outlined this. So Flames at the Worlds. So announced by national team, so confirmed. For Sweden, Michael Backlund and Rasmus Andersson absolutely playing for the Three Crowns. For Czechia, Dan Vladar, hopefully he will get that starting gig for them. And Slovakia, Sammy Honzek. So 4 guaranteed with 3, potentially 4 more on the way as well. So not yet announced because Canada and US haven't officially announced their rosters, but for Canada, Weegar and Ryan Huska coaching. He absolutely will. They both absolutely will be there representing the Maple Leaf as well as Zane Parekh doing at least some exhibition games, potentially more. So that's another one to add to the list here. And then for the US, Matt Coronato also hasn't been announced, but essentially guaranteed at this point. So a lot of Flames to cheer for, not obviously in the playoffs, but in the Worlds, which is always fun. Now let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this one here. It comes from the most recent video on the channel, and it comes from, does it come from me? Well, kind of, if it's at the real _ Marky Mark, isn't that me? Nah, that's not me, but either way, Marky Mark, what'd you say here? He said, I would rather build through the draft than give up draft capital and a large contract to an RFA. St. Louis was a rare example of targeting guys from a cap-strapped team, whereas a $9 million deal would lose the Flames significant draft capital as well as, cap space in general. Yes, bringing in Peterka would be awesome. An expensive offer sheet might not be the way to do it, but that being said, crazier things have been done, and we'll just have to wait and see what does happen with what everyone anticipates to be a crazy summer of offer sheets, among other things. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe, like you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.